Thanks, little guy.
Ding ding.
Oh, thank you.
Ding ding.
Did I miss something? When did we get to Disneyland?
Ding ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Cantina. It's your friendly neighborhood barkeep, bar manager, chaos coordinator, and Wookiee Wrangler Stephanie Janisek here to talk a little bit about Redemption today. And it's going to go the whole kind of twisted sort of thing that's going on right now with the Star Wars itself, with the Lucasfilm and, the characters in general. And past characters. So somebody, I think it was Entertainment Hacker or Everything Star Wars, basically brought up Redemption and does Anakin deserve it? Was he redeemed? And Abanaz jumped in and I jumped in, but I don't just want to talk about Anakin. I want to talk about a lot of different things. You know, when you've got Anakin Skywalker, before he was consumed and assumed by Darth Vader, he was a great hero. He was a legend already. He was the most powerful Jedi that ever lived. So when he gets assumed by Darth Vader, is he a different person? Is the man in the life support suit, in the armor, the same person as Anakin Skywalker? Was the change so great that it was almost his personality just completely got obliterated? Yes and no. Before he was burned up in the lava, you gotta remember, he was pretty much a Sith Lord, but with Anakin's skin, okay? So does he deserve redemption? Well, all right, let's go back to the Return of the Jedi. He was found out in Empire and basically stated to Luke, "No, I am your father." In Return of the Jedi, I'll go back. In Empire, at the very end, when he sees the Falcon take off, jump into hyperspace, and he's standing there, and Admiral Piet's like, I'm gonna die. Vader just ignores him and walks away. You're starting to see a change come over him. Now this person, Darth Vader, not only confronted the fact that he is the father of this, I will say that Luke at the time was a Padawan of Yoda's, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't a full-fledged Jedi yet. But Vader realizes that this is his son, that everything he believed after Padme died, he thought the baby died with her. It wasn't just one baby, all right? He doesn't know that yet because Leia hasn't grown into the Force yet. The Force has not become available to her yet. She has to, I think, accept the fact that she's not who she thinks she is, and that she is Luke's sister and Anakin's daughter, which is the hardest thing for Leia to do. That's when you'll see the Force grow in Leia. Okay, let's talk about Vader. Through the entire first part of ROTJ, when he's talking to the Emperor says, "Now I sense you want to return to your search for your son." Vader isn't the Vader that we knew in A New Hope, or even in, almost 5/6 of the way through Empire. This is a different character now. Let's go to his relationship with the Emperor. When you see him bow down and kneel in front of the Emperor's hologram in Empire, you get the sense that, yes, Vader is serving the Master. Okay, fine. When you get to ROTJ, there are cutout scenes in the novel, too, where the Emperor basically treats him like shit. Treats him like, I told you not to come back and blah, blah, blah. Kind of berates him in front of his retainers. It's a very interesting change because this all-powerful Sith Lord turns out to be kind of a weak-willed lackey to the Emperor, okay? And that was a big thing to me, all right? That was a big thing. If you watch ROTJ again, watch the part from Empire at the very end, and then watch ROTJ, and you see Vader's not weakening, but realization of what's really going on here. That he's serving a very, very callous, arbitrary master who, when he's fighting with Luke, and Luke starts beating the shit out of him because he brought up the princess, his sister, and the Emperor's goading Luke to kill his father. You suddenly realize that Palpatine's servants, his apprentices, are interchangeable. He really doesn't give a damn. All right? And he senses, I think, maybe Anakin Skywalker's, the conflict that Luke sensed. If Luke could sense it, Palpatine couldn't. I think Palpatine could through the entire, right after Vader confronted Luke the first time on Bespin. All right, so at the end, we see Vader saving Luke. He's redeemed in Luke's eyes, not for a while in Leia's eyes. You go to the real Star Wars canon, the EU, it takes Leia years to forgive him. If you remember the novel, The Truce of Bakura, Anakin's Force Ghost visits her, and she basically bitches him out and tells him to leave. And she doesn't want to accept it. But you got to remember, she suffered greatly at the hands of her own father. She watched her own father and Governor Tarkin, destroy her planet and her family, her home, her people, her culture, everything. Then, and I'm going to say this, I don't think Leia was physically tortured on Bespin. They forced her to watch what they were doing to Han. I really think that when Leia confronts Vader in Truce of Bakura, or Anakin, basically she brings up, he brings up Han, and she brings up Han, and he says he's sorry for it, and she basically says, well, you're going to have to ask him about that. I can almost forgive you for what you did to me, but I'll never forgive you what you did to Han. Okay, so we got that. We got Leia having a hard time seeing a redeemed, reformed Anakin Skywalker. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of the galaxy. Luke helps their father turn back to the light side, or at least get some redemption. Maybe bring balance to the Force, considering that Anakin is actually the chosen one. Okay. Leia, through a tablet that she was given, that Shmi Skywalker had done hundreds of little vignettes for Anakin. Should he come back, he'd find these missives from his mother, meeting some of Anakin's friends from Tatooine in Tatooine Ghost, and with Han's, I guess, guidance, perseverance, helping her through this. He really was there for her in all this. Learns to accept Anakin, learns to forgive him. And this is a big step for her. So you got the Skywalker kids saying, okay, he's her dad. Fine. He wasn't Darth Vader. Okay. Can the rest of the galaxy, after the billions that were killed, after the horrible things the Empire did, and a lot of it was done by Vader himself, can they forgive him? And I know human nature pretty well, and I would say no. There's redemption within the Force, which I think Anakin has. But is there redemption out in the real world where justice, as a society, should be able to mete out justice? You know, Ted Bundy could have said, I'm really sorry he committed all these murders. I'm really sorry to the parents. I'm redeemed, and then been redeemed, but he still was going to get executed. Why? Because society has to follow the side of justice. And regardless of how, angelic a murderer becomes, he still has to face society's judgment. And that is where Anakin, I don't think, would ever be forgiven. Okay? So let's go further. Redemption. All right, I've talked a little bit about the Han Solo, the redemption and the EU. He really did want to be a respectable person, a respectable man, which is why he so wanted to be an Imperial fighter pilot. And after everything happened, he saves Chewie. He gets court-martialed and kicked out of the Imperial Navy. He has no choice because he can't get a regular job. He has to go into the smuggling thing. Now, you have to remember that he was already a person who had seen a lot of the underworld. He knew how to navigate it as a kid. Okay, so he was trying to rise above that, get in the Navy as an officer, and be respectable. Do you remember the line in ROTJ when he said to Lando, "Well, you're the respectable one"? Remember that? That was Han's goal in life as a young pilot. When that was taken away from him, he had to go back to where he was in order to survive, because the Imperial Navy, guys who were court-martialed couldn't get legitimate jobs. I mean, he would starve to death. So what does he do? He wanders around the Coruscant underworld and starts taking jobs piloting stuff here and there. His first tentative steps into smuggling, he ends up on Narshada. The rest is history. And he's a very, very, very sort of gunfighter, the guy that is on the other side of the law, but is a good guy, like Doc Holliday in Tombstone, or you name it. In fact, if you go back and look at the history of the Old West, Wild Bill Hickok was on either side of the law. Wyatt Earp was too, by the way. It just depended on the circumstances. It didn't make these guys bad guys. It's just what the American West, which is truly a frontier, was about. All right, so the redemption of Han Solo is he runs into Luke and Leia, becomes friends with Luke. He stays with the rebellion. He doesn't like the Empire. So he stays with the rebellion because, he can, on the surface it looks like he's hiding out from Jabba, but what he's really doing is he's staying around for Leia. He stayed there for her. If anybody is responsible for the redemption and the turnaround in Han Solo's life, into where his life became positive and he actually gets to fulfill a lot of the dreams he had as a kid, it's because of Leia. He fell in love with her. He'd been, I would say, in love with her for 3 years before, stuff started happening. And, that's exactly what happened. Okay? So she is responsible for his redemption. In fact, in the Empire Strikes Back radio play, when Lando goes in to tell them what Vader's up to, and Han knocks him on his ass, and Han says to him, I used to be you. Han has grown as a character monumentally with that when he utters that phrase. Okay? He's still the hard ass, he's still the gunfighter, he's still the wise, cracking Siddiq, but you see a side of Han Solo that we weren't allowed to see until that moment, and it's because of Leia. She is, I've said this before, his change agent, and he's her change agent, but we're not talking about her right now. It's because it's redemption. Okay, so we're done talking about Han. Luke doesn't really need to be redeemed. He's always been light side. He's dabbled with the dark side, I know, in the EU. So in the novels, he actually went to the dark side. And they weren't the very good novels either, by the way. But this is, we could talk a little bit about Mara Jade being redeemed after she meets Luke, which is sort of what happened to Han. But let's talk a little bit about Kylo Ren. We've got a kid who in canon, official Diz canon, was never, ever denied anything. His parents gave him anything he wanted, literally. He had absolutely no reason to flip out and do what he did. What the reasons are, we even have Jason Fry saying he might have misremembered what his upbringing was about. I'm paraphrasing. Jason Fry wrote TLJ, the novel, the shitty, crappy novel. I've got to say this. Could he have been redeemed? Yeah. If he hadn't killed Han, if he'd have turned and walked away and left Han standing there, I almost think that would have been as painful, but in a different way. The story would have been vastly different, but the fact that he wouldn't be able to kill his parents, his father, would have been a clue that he wasn't really the apprentice Snoke thought he was. But because he not only is responsible for ordering the destruction of that village, he killed the kids at Luke's Jedi Academy. He's probably committed other atrocities all over the galaxy. He's a war criminal, okay? Just like Vader. And then he turns around and kills his father. Here's the thing. He does everything Palpatine did. Palpatine killed his family. Kylo Ren kills his father, pulls up just in time from being the one to kill his mother, but never orders his squadron away, and they do it for him, which is a chicken shit thing to do. So does he deserve redemption? Well, let's say other things. He kidnapped Rey, he tortured Rey, he basically skull-fucked Rey and mind-raped her. He physically abused her. That in and of itself, he doesn't deserve redemption. Okay, so what am I saying? There are ways of redeeming a character, or at least giving him a balance at the end of a movie cycle, which a trilogy is. And I honestly now I'm looking at it as JJ making a duology because TLJ was such a farce. We all know that he lied to Rey, and we'll add that one. He kills his own master. Okay, that's another thing that Palpatine did. I mean, this is strange territory for him to be wandering around. And of course we'll have a fanboy going, yeah, but blah, blah, blah did that too. And shut up. I'm not talking about that sleazeball. I'm talking about Kylo Ren. Does he deserve the same redemption as Vader attained through his family? No, he doesn't. His family, he has hurt his family so badly. He might be the one that stole Rey and dumped her in Jakku. Okay. He might really be that one. I've gotten into debates with people, but I think that Zori Bliss is a Knight of Ren, a former Knight of Ren, and I think she might have actually stolen Rey and dropped her on Jakku to keep her safe from Kylo Ren. But then Kylo Ren acts like he knows there was a girl there, so, why? But that's a whole different thing. And I talked about who left Rey on Jakku. But did Kylo Ren do that? If he did, he contributed to his parents' worst nightmare. Okay? But then, you wonder out loud, was Rey kidnapped before all this stuff happened with Kylo Ren? What caused him to freak out on his parents? I don't know. I get the feeling some people have told me that all this stuff happened before he freaked out. Then we got Bloodline, where it appears to be the ship that Han picks up Leia with isn't the Falcon. So there are lots of different questions. But the fact of the matter is we're talking about redemption and not that stuff. And I gotta say this. Does Kylo Ren, who I think is the worst character in Star Wars history, I would have been more intimidated by Darth Jar Jar than, Kylo Ren. Especially the temper tantrums he was having. He doesn't deserve it after what he did to Han. He doesn't deserve it. I know they're going to redeem him because that's what they want to do, but it's never going to mean as much to the fans because he's such a horrible character and he did such a horrible, horrible thing. It's not going to mean as much to the fans as it did when Vader killed the Emperor. It's just not going to mean as much. Kylo Ren is a vicious, disgusting, filthy human being. He's a garbage human. I believe in the bad seed. I think that there are people that are born that are they're atrocious. And I gotta say, Kylo Ren is one of them. Okay, so I myself don't look at him as being redeemable. I really, really don't. You don't commit patricide. Somebody could say, yeah, it's Shakespearean. No, it's not. It's fucking vulgar, disgusting filth. I mean, you can't bring up Hamlet. Hamlet didn't kill his father. Hamlet's uncle did. Okay? Give a shit about Hamlet's father either, by the way. Okay? None of us had an emotional attachment to him. Okay? You don't do that to Han Solo. You just fucking don't. And then expect us to forgive that fucking piece of shit, worthless, the best part of him dribbled down the crack of Leia's ass. You don't expect us to forgive him. Okay? It's kind of like this. My parents were married for 51 years. When my father died, our family was torn apart. What a few people in my family did to my parents, did to my dad, was so heinous, was so over-the-top horrifying that I can't even contemplate it. And it wasn't they might have abused Mom. But it wasn't the fact that they abused Dad. They lied to him. They manipulated him. They treated him like shit. Condescended to him. They weren't there to help him. Well, they should have. And, you honor your father and mother. When I saw that part in TFA, I was so fucking enraged. So fucking enraged that I still am. I can't watch that part. I would rather sit through five versions of Schindler's List on a loop than watch that. And the reason why is this. I can accept historical atrocities. I can't accept what they did to Han. For the simple reason is you just don't do that to a character like that. And you don't do that to somebody that he didn't deserve it. You know, you don't forgive murder. You don't forgive patricide. You don't forgive matricide. You fucking don't. All right? You just don't. Especially when the father didn't deserve it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Kylo Ren deserves to have, Anakin's Force Ghost come back and choke him to death. He deserves to be thrown in the fire pit of hell, never to be seen again. All right? He deserves all the pain and suffering that he has caused his parents, the galaxy, his sister, everything. He doesn't deserve 1 ounce of respect that Vader got. And the reason why is this. Vader, we knew Vader before. We understood who he was when we got the prequels. We understood what happened. We understood why he fell from grace. We don't have any reason to understand Kylo Ren because he had no fucking reason. And he doesn't deserve redemption. Alright, this is Steph signing out. See you around the galaxy. See you around the cantina. Please remember to tip the Wiki bartenders 20%. No fights in the cantina. No gunfights. You take this shit outside. No Reylos. No droids. No Rey Nobodies. No bounty hunters. No Rey Kenobis. No Rey Palpatines. No Rey Luke's cloned hand. I'll see you around the galaxy, scoundrels.